So over here a little bit of a sikha from Shabbos Parshas Hachodesh, Tafshin Chaf Dalet. So begin from Aleph. Geulah Sida concerning the future redemption of Moshiach. Alpha Pisha B'Gemara Yesh Kluktim B'Tishrei Asidim Legoel B'Nisn Asin Legoel. Though the Gemara has a dispute between two Tanoim, Rabbi Shua, Rabbi Lazar, if the Geulah, the future Geulah, is going to be in Tishrei or it's going to be in Nisan. In a B'Medrash Sasam Shebenisn Asin Legoel. The Medrash just said it without any explanation that it's going according to one opinion or another. He just says it plainly that it's Nisan, they're going to be redeemed. And though Medrash is called the Agoda part of Torah, Agadah. In our klal shein poskim halacha ma'agadah, there's a rule that when it comes to halacha cannot be derived from Medrash, from Agadah. That's only when there's a contradiction, a halachic contradiction between what it says in the Medrash, what it says in the Gemara. Because when there's agadah or halacha ke the ruling follows halacha. In our case, about when the future redemption will appear, there's a dispute without any conclusion which view we are following. And the Medrash, he just says it plainly like one opinion. Then the ruling follows the Medrash that says that in Nisan will be the future redemption. So brought down in Chassidus the similar idea that the Gemara Yesh Pluk B'Gevar Ubin Medrash Sasim Kaman Damar Shebenisn Asin Legoel. Then in Gemara there's a dispute about this, but the Medrash just said plainly without indicating any dispute, like the opinion that Nisan is going to be the future redemption. Now the Rebbe says, if the halacha is, if we follow the view that a Nisan is going to be the future redemption, why should there even be brought down any type of dispute? Yeah, Shloimer, we could say, the reason why it's also mentioned the dispute in the Gemara, to strengthen the matter. Because when there is a decision in something that was a dispute about it, so it's even more powerful in the matter that initially did not have any other opinion about it. So the very fact that it's recorded a dispute and then there's a final ruling somewhere else, so that gives the final ruling an even greater power than if there would never have been recorded any type of dispute. The Rebbe gives an example from two situations. One situation is a halachic situation. In halacha, it speaks about if a person has a document to prove any particular thing, a document to prove about a loan, a document to prove about a sale. Now, a document legally can be challenged in Bezdin if you bring certain types of proofs that shed aspersion on this document. But once a document was challenged in Bezdin, and then the Bezdin had verified it, and they gave the stamp of approval, so now this document is beyond reproach, meaning that the very dispute gives the document a greater power and a greater validity than if there's never been a dispute. That's what he's going to say right now. Similar to what we find in the laws of documents. Though from Torah law, there's no need for a document to be verified by Bezdin. Since we are not concerned if the document had on it valid witnesses, so then we rely on the validity of the document. Kolmak and still and all. A document that had some type of challenge to it, V'niskayim bebezin, and afterwards it was validated in a court. Yes, it has a greater validity and power and legal standing than a document that never had any challenge. So the same thing over here, when the Gemara brings out the dispute whether Tishrei will be the future Geulah or Nisan will be the future Geulah, and then we have a ruling that the Medrash says without any dispute that will be in Nisan, so that gives it a lot more validity than if there would never have been a dispute that we are validating over here one opinion. Then the Rebbe brings an example also concerning the spreading of Chassidus that also went through a process of being challenged, and by the fact that Chassidus was victorious over the challenge, that made the power, validity of Chassidus so much stronger. Bottom of the page, based to note, Dugma now Mishtar Shiotolov Iruv, and this kind of bezin, a similarity of the above, a document that was some type of suspicion and some type of challenge arose about it. And then it was validated in a court, maybe quite my father-in-law, the Frierdiker Rebbe brings in a similar vein, concerning the imprisonment of the Alter Rebbe in Petersburg. Only after the imprisonment and after he was freed, began the main spreading of the well springs of Chassidus outward, like it's explained in the well-known talk of his father, the Rebbe Rashab. So the Rebbe explains how come, why is that? And by prefacing, the entire reason why there was a prosecution down here below, why there was an imprisonment down here below, it was because there was a prosecution and a discussion that was in the spiritual realms against Chassidus. And that's why it resulted down here in the physical world that Alter Rebbe was imprisoned, etc. Rebbe says, it's not understood. Why was there any need to be any type of prosecution against Teres Chassidus? Why was there not able to be the ultimate spreading of the well springs only after the imprisonment, like we mentioned before, that was the full spreading of the well springs happened after the Alter Rebbe was freed from imprisonment. But the idea behind this is through the fact that there was a prosecution and there was an imprisonment, despite that, the Alter Rebbe came out victorious or freed from any charges. Not only was he freed from any charges, it wasn't a way of victory. So then it became a much more power and strength to it. Since they were able to overcome the prosecution, like a document that survived the challenge and was validated in the court, that now that document is much stronger and much more reliable than an ordinary document that was never challenged. The Rebbe is going to bring in, this is similar to the idea of Baalei Teshuva over Tzaddikim, which is also like they were challenged and they overcame the challenge, where Tzaddikim never succumbed. And Baalei Teshuva and Tzaddikim is going to be very important to the discussion now about Tishrei and Nisan. Derech miles Baalei Teshuva al Tzaddikim, similar to the advantage of Baalei Teshuva over Tzaddikim. Teshuva Malkim, Baalei Teshuva Oimdim Tzaddikim, Gemara Michael Lamed Sham, where Tzaddikim stand, where Baalei Teshuva stands, the complete Tzaddikim, and not capable of standing over there. Like it's explained, the reason for this in many places. Let's skip over to almost the end of the paragraph where it says over there, Betanya over there, it says the parentheses, after the word Tanya at the beginning of the line, Apple became still in all, but Malcolm Shabbat Tshuva aimed him in a place where Baal Tshuva stand. Tzaddikim, complete tzaddikim cannot stand over there. Kivin Sheitzel Baal Tshuva Hayagam Inyan Shal Rag Ulu Biz Gaber Allah. Because by Baal Tshuva, there was also something that was negative, and he overcame it. In a similar vein, concerning the revelation of the inner part of Torah, became since there was an idea of a prosecution, and still in all they withstood it. So then there was added a power of an everlasting nature, a very strong type of stake in the ground that will never move. And this is uniquely connected and associated to the future redemption, Moshiach's redemption. Because the advantage of the future redemption over the redemption from Mitzrayim, similar to the advantage and quality of the avoid of tshuva over the avoid of tzaddik. Yitzias Mitzrayim nasu b'nei Yisrael Mitzias Chadosh. When the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim, they became a new being. Gemaimer as Alta Chazal say, Shaz Hoy Inyan Agedus. Then there was the idea of that they converted. The Gersh and his guy can cotton shnol domi, and a convert that converted, he's like a newborn child. Who's a newborn child, has no avedus, that's the avoid of tzaddikim. So Yidden became converted at the conclusion of their going out of Mitzrayim by Matan Torah, so they're like tzaddikim. So that is one type of avoid. As opposed to the future redemption that follows all the sins and all the exiles. In Yana Tshuva, the idea behind it is Tshuva, like the Torah promised, Yisrael lasses Tshuva. Eventually, at the end of the exile, Yidden will do Tshuva, and immediately they will become redeemed. Not only that, not only will those that have to do Tshuva, they'll do Tshuva, but even Tzaddikim will attain the level of the avoid of tshuva, like Chazal say, Moshiach, the Moshiach is going to bring tzaddikim into doing tshuva. Because the level of tshuva that comes after there was the opposite state and situation, Gabru Allah, and they overcame the opposite of what was supposed to be. That's the idea of tshuva, opposite of godliness, and we overcame it. And that is like a document that was validated in Bezdom. The fact that we overcame negativity, so then there's a verification of its existence and its everlasting nature. So then the future redemption will be complete and everlasting. A redemption that has no exile following. And this is connected with the very nature of the month of Nisan versus the month of Tishrei. Shuvah, in a way, or we'll soon see, the final redemption versus the redemption that was then. This is also connected with the difference between the month of Nisan the sorry, we got disconnected over here. So we're saying that this is also the difference between the month of Nisan and the month of Tishrei in second paragraph of Gimel. Hachodesh Nisan in Yonah Gilim Umaylamata, the month of Nisan. It's about a revelation from above to below. Why is it a revelation from above to below? You do as it's known. For those that know Kabbalah, it's Siruv Shem Havaya b'Chodesh Nisan hu kisidroi. That the combinations of the name Yud Kei Vav Kei in the month of Nisan is as it is in its order, meaning that there's 12 months of the year. There are 12 different permutations of 4 letters. When you have the 4 letters making up the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, there are 12 different combinations that it could be written in. And the way the Yud Kei Vav Kei that shines in the month of Nisan is in the order like we're familiar with Yud Kei Vav Kei. In other words, Nisan is, everything is in its right place. That's why it's called the month of Aviv. Aviv literally means spring. But Aviv is also Aleph Beis. Is Aleph Beis and Kisidron, that the letters of the Aleph Beis are in their order, first Aleph and then Beis. As opposed to the month of Tishrei, it's about ascending from below to above. With Siruv Shem Havai Shaboy Ein Kisidroi, the combination of the name Yud Kei Vav Kei is not written out Yud Kei Vav Kei, but in a different order. V'gam Seder Oisis B'Shem HaChodesh U'Malmata L'Maylo Tov Shin Reish, and also the order of the letters in the name of the month is from below to above. First, the letter Tov, the final letter of the Aleph Beis, then the letter Shin, the second to last letter, then the letter Reish, the third from last letter, indicating we're going from the bottom rung, going upwards, from below to above. This reason, V'Lachein, Yitzias Mitzrayim Hoysa B'Chodesh Nisan, going out of Mitzrayim was in the month of Nisan, Kivin Shin Yonah Avodas Tzadikim Kanal. Since the idea of the month of Nisan was the avoid of tzaddikim, like we said before, and avoid of tzaddikim shemilma ilolamata, it's from above to below in Yonishal Nisan, because a tzaddik is not under and relegated to the problems of the world and not overcoming the world. As opposed to the future redemption, Yeshdeya, there's an opinion that in Tishrei they will become redeemed. Since it's the future redemption, as we said before, is connected with avodah of tshuva, because that's what's going to happen when Moshiach comes. It's going to come after all the sins and all the exiles, and even tzaddikim are going to do tshuva. So that's why it would make sense that it should be in Tishrei. That's from below to above in Yonishal Tishrei. Still in all, despite that reasoning, and that's why the other opinion holds, that in Tishrei will be the future redemption, became still in all. The ruling is even concerning the future redemption. When Moshiach comes, ain't sort of lahamtina Tishrei, but you not have to wait until Tishrei. Nisan in Nisan we are going to be redeemed. From my Yitzias Mitzrayim, just like Yitzias Mitzrayim was in Nisan. From my Shekos, like it says, Kimet Seis, Chomerat Mitzrayim and Niflois. Like your days going out of the land of Mitzrayim, I will show you wonders in the future redemption. And here the Rebbe is extending it, like your days of going out of Mitzrayim was in Nisan, so too the future redemption will be in Nisan. Gam begula sida tia avodas tzadikim in Yonish Chodesh Nisan, because also in the future redemption there'll also be the avoid of tzadikim. It won't be limited to Baal Tshuva, which is in Yonish Chodesh Nisan, like we said before. What Chodesh Nisan stands for, the month of Nisan, is about the avoid of tzadikim. Can move him. Like it's understood from the statement from Moshiach, also that Moshiach is going to bring tzadikim to do tshuva. That means when Moshiach comes, there will be the avoid of tzaddikim. Tzaddikim will not be ignored. There'll be the avoid of tzaddikim. They will also have the advantage of tshuva. Though in the future redemption, there'll also be the advantage of tshuva. It comes after and as a continuation to Parshas Para, that Para Aduma is the avoid of Tshuva, like we explained, the Rebbe explained in a Farbrengen previous to this Farbrengen. The Inyan Hakdamas Parshas Para, Le Parshas Hachodesh, concerning why we take out an exercise potato. We took it out this past Shabbos. We read Parshas Para about the Para Aduma, and only this coming Shabbos we're going to read the Parsha Hachodesh, which speaks about the Korban Pesach and so on. Why do we say Parshas Para? Why do we read Parshas Para before Parshas Chodesh? Parshas Para hu inyan avodas tshuva, because Para is the avodah of tshuva. Because what's the Para? The Para comes to purify someone that came in contact with a dead body, like he's going to mention later on. The whole idea of death has to do with sin. How did death come down into the world? It came because of the sin of the Eitz Hadas. So therefore, the entire idea of Para Aduma is about purification from sin, like tshuva. Parshas Hachodesh, who in avodas tzaddikim. The Parshas Hachodesh, that's the avodah of tzaddikim, just like Eden were completely renewed by Yetzias Mitzrayim. They were like a newborn child. V'lechein magdim in Parshas Para leParshas Hachodesh. That's why we preface and we say first Parshas Para before Parshas Hachodesh. Kivin shegam tzaddikim zukukim la'avodas hatshuva. Because also tzaddikim need the avodah of tshuva. How do we see this? Concerning the Medrash says, it says Zois Chukas HaTorah, it calls it a chukah, and it says about the Para Aduma. We read this yesterday in the second Sefer Torah, and also it says Zois Chukas HaPesach concerning the Korban Pesach. Iyat is a chukah Geulah, mi Geulah. The Chazal say since both of them are called chukah, you don't know which one is greater. Is the Chukas HaPara greater or the Chukas HaPesach greater? So he says HaPara is greater, because the people that are eating the Korban Pesach, they need to have the Para Aduma. They cannot eat from the Korban Pesach until they have been purified by the Para Aduma. So the Rebbe now is going to explain, according to this, we could explain also the words of Yeshalmi. Lama Para Kedemes. Why do we read first Parshas Para, and then we read Parshas Hachodesh? He Tarosan shall call Yisrael, because the Parshas Para purifies all the Yidden. Sheyasu Pischem B'Tara, so they should be able to offer their Korban Pesach in purity. The in the movement, the Rebbe asked on this Yerushalmi, seemingly it's not understood. The need for the Para Aduma, for the Korban Pesach, that the people that eat the Korban Pesach need the Para Aduma. It's only by people that happen to be impure and happen to have come in contact with a dead body prior to that. It's not by all Yidden. And not only that, if all Yidden would need it, so then nobody would. But Adrab. The people that are eating the Korban Pesach need the Para Aduma only when they are a minority. Masha Enkein, the halacha is a very halacha. Kasher Kol Yisrael, I feel a Rov Yisrael Tmeim, if the entire Klal Yisrael, or even the majority of Yidden, are impure, Azai Tumma, the Chuya, I feel Hutra B'tzibur. Tumma is pushed away or even permitted when the congregation is Tameh. Skip the parentheses. Bim came Mao Diuk Lashon Hayishalmi Shitarosin Shakol Yisrael. Why does Yerushalmi say that the Para Aduma is the Tara of all the Yidden? If it's all the Yidden, then you don't even need the Para Aduma. And the Rebbe goes on and continues. The question is, the question is not just because of the language that he uses, but even more so, just because the content of the matter. The fact that we're proceeding to read Parshas Para before Parshas Hachodesh, that this order in the reading of the Parshas is applicable to all Yidden. If only a minority of Yidden need the Parah Aduma to be able to consume the Korban Pesach, means that Tam Maspik, this is an insufficient reason. Why do all Yidden need to read Parshas Parah before Parshas Hachodesh? If only a minority of Yidden would need the Parah Aduma before they have the halachas of the Parshas Hachodesh, of the Korban Pesach. The Rebbe goes on also that really it's out of order as well. The whole basis for the question is that the first time around, when they made the Mishkan was first erected on and went into operation on the 1st of Nisan. That's today's Chumash actually. Vayem Hashmini is talking about it's the 8th day of the Miluyim. They practiced 7 days of practice of erecting the Mishkan and practicing in the Mishkan. The first day where the Mishkan went into operation was Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And when did they first make and prepare the Parah Aduma? The first time? That was on the 2nd day of Nisan. So we actually find that in the order, in the original time, was the other order. First came the Mishkan, which has to do with the Hachodesh Hazel Lachem Rosh Chodashim, is talking about the first day of the month of Nisan, which is when the Mishkan was erected, and only afterwards, in the 2nd of Nisan, was the Parah Aduma. So we'll skip over to Eishei. Yuvin calls it Beheg, the Mashnas Bar Le'el. All of this be understood by prefacing what we explained before, Sheparshas Parah, Hu Inyan Tshuva. Parah is the idea of Tshuva, as I mentioned earlier, and here he says it openly. Parah mitaheres metumas meis. The Parah purifies from the impurity that results from contact with a dead body. The idea of death comes as a result of the sin of Deitz Hadas, the root of all sins. Like it's also explained in the Mamorim that speak about Parah Aduma, what's the inner meaning, the spiritual meaning of burning the heifer, the red heifer, into ashes. Parah, the Kabilas Mismoil, the level of the Parah Aduma receives from the left, because the cow, its source is from Pnei Shorsha Merkava, it's on the left. It's the oxen face of the supernal chariot that's on the left side. Moidan of Shabamish, Shorsha Pnei Shorsha Masmoil, it indicates the animal soul. The Parah Aduma indicates the animal soul, that its root is from the oxen face that's on the left side of the chariot. The Rebbe in other places says it doesn't have a yoke on it. We read in yesterday's Torah portion of Parshas Parah. Doesn't have a yoke, shows that it doesn't have Kabbalah soil, doesn't accept the yoke of heaven upon it. The idea of redness, red also shows on Averis that if your sins will be as red as a red string. So it's all ideas of clip. Indian Sreif Sapara, what's the idea of the burning of the Parah Aduma? It's to burn up the form of bad, in such a manner that all that remains is only the ashes. What are the ashes that you have to burn up from the Nefesh Habamis? That's the power of desire that's to be found in the animal soul. That one transforms it to good and holiness, like it says, with all your heart, with both Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara, which that happens once you remove what he calls the Tzir Hara, the bad forms, the idea that's attracted to bad things. And then all you do is you drill down just to the power of desire, and you use that desire for godliness. So that's the idea of the transformation of the Nefesh Habamis to good. That's also the idea of Tshuva. Through that, the intentional sins become into mitzvahs. Yet, despite that whole explanation in Parah Aduma, Cholim lachshiv shatzoyda bin that shuva para uraketz mishachato pagam var arsader. One could think that shuva is only necessary, the para adum is only necessary by someone that sinned and caused a blemish and crossed the road. Misha nitma b'tumas meis, someone that was contaminated with tumas meis, with the contamination of a dead body. This comes the lesson and directive from the words of the Yerushalmi. Para is the purity and the purification of all Yid. Also tzaddikim need avoid of tshuva. Kol Yisrael koyrim Parshas Para v'nei Parshas Hachodesh. Therefore, all Yidden read Parshas Para before they read Parshas Hachodesh. Ki inyan hatshuva Para hu yisoid gam la'avodas hatzadikim. It's also tshuva is a foundation, also the avodah of the tzadikim. Let's skip over a little bit. So the Rebbe says, Omnam, the Medvar Mamurim, when is this all talking about? That we need to have the para before the Parshas Hachodesh, la'achri sheyesh nekvar tzir shal avoida. Once we have some type of form of service, shalachein sarach liyisim na tshuva, that's why there has to be the idea of tshuva, shizo yisoid the avoida, that's the foundation of the avoida, gam mitzel tzadikim, he needs the tshuva. But at the beginning of the avodah, before there's any type of form taking place, like that's at the end, like the beginning of creation. Let's skip over to the next paragraph. Therefore, the first Pesach, when the Yidden went on Mitzrayim, when Yidden were then a new existence, Gershon is guy like a convert that just converted, he's like a newborn child. They immediately began with offering the Pesach tzadikim without the paradum. Like we mentioned before, the Mishkan was erected prior to the paradum, because when the Mishkan was erected, they were considered completely new. But let's skip down to the bottom of the page. Immediately after the Mishkan being erected, there was already an existence of a form of avodah chulum. There was already some type of form of service. There had to be the avodah of tshuva. Therefore, b'sheni ben Nisan para, on the second day of Nisan, the para aduma had to be burnt up, and that became also the introduction, the preface to offering the korban Pesach. That those that consume the korban Pesach need the para aduma. By Ram is the lesson from this in our avoidance. Though at the beginning of creation it says, who did Hashem consult in the Shamas Tzaddik? Similarly, in every single Yid, bar mitzvah, when they become bar or bas mitzvah, then he's a new being without any type of form and no connection with the idea of sin. But that is, they are considered like tzaddik. Afterwards has to be the avoid of tshuva. That tshuva's quality is so much greater than the tzad. By days of Zoichem Lagula Asida Shatavai de David, through that we merit the future redemption that comes with David. Like it says with David, Avdi Naslam Loilam, David, my servant, will be a leader over them forever. Through David HaMelech was the preparation for the building Beis HaMikdash. Like we know, David HaMelech prepared the plans for the Beis HaMikdash, which Shlomo HaMelech actually built. The Nivna Ma'avonim, that was built from stone, daimim, inanimate things, which is skip over the brackets, inyan atshuva, which the Rebbe mentioned that daimim is similar, it's milmata l'mayla. We're going from the lowest level up, that's similar to tshuva, that's milmata l'mayla. Tzad Miles Hatshuva, and because of the advantage of Tshuva, there was the idea of the negative when we overcame it. Like a document that was challenged and then it was validated in a court. So there will also be the future redemption. That after we already passed through the idea of exile, in an everlasting manner, like it says, that the lip of truth, or the edge of truth, and how much more so truth itself, will be set forever. A redemption that has no golus following it.
Thank you.